Emily from Calvert Library, Fairview Branch. Thank you for tuning in to Calvert Library Asian Authors Matter. In this video, Calvert librarians will recommend some wonderful, beautiful, and inspiring picture books, great for all ages. Let's jump right in. Enjoy!
Hello, thank you, Emily. My name is Jessie, and I'm a children's librarian at the Prince Frederick Branch. One of my favorite pastimes at the library is to browse our new children's items display next to the children's circulation desk. And that's why I found the book I'd like to talk about today. It's called The Piano Recital, and it's written and illustrated by Akiko Miyakoshi. Miyakoshi was born in Japan, and she currently lives in Tokyo. She's written and illustrated multiple children's books that have been translated into English, the first of which was The Tea Party in the Woods. But The Piano Recital was published in 2019. This book follows Momo, a little girl who's extremely nervous to perform at her first piano recital. As she watches her fellow piano students performing from backstage, she tries to calm her nerves and prepare for her piece when suddenly she sees a little mouse next to her doing the same thing. The mouseling brings her through a secret mouse hole that leads to the mouseling's own concert hall, where the mice are having their own talent show. Here's some of the pictures. We have a circus performance and an acrobatic performance. Pretty neat. And as the mouseling prepares for her singing performance, she gets so nervous, and Momo offers to go on stage with the mouseling. Momo plays piano while the mouseling sings. And at the end of the piece, Momo stands up to bow when she realizes she isn't just performing in front of the mice anymore. This is a wonderful story drawn with really beautiful illustrations that uses charcoal, pencils, and gouache that teaches children how to overcome their anxiety and to be brave. This is a great story for anyone who is nervous about an upcoming performance, or for anyone who wants a great read with beautiful illustrations.
Thanks, Jessie. I like that one too. I'm Sandy. I'm at the Twin Beaches branch of Calvert Library, and I have two books that I want to share today, both alike and different. So the first one I want to share, both of them are brand new books. But the first one is called Fatima's Great Outdoors. And this is the story of a little girl, Fatima Kazi, and her sister and her parents that are going on their very first camping trip. So Fatima is so looking forward to this camping trip because it's a really welcome change from school, where she is keenly aware of how different she is all of the time. She gets teased because of her lunch. Her lunch is different. Her accent is different. And so she sees this trip as kind of a reward to get away from school. So she's so looking forward to it. And in the car, her family can sing Bollywood songs at the top of their lungs, and she can eat her mom's samosas and kebabs. It's a wonderful, wonderful trip. So I love this title because it brings such an interesting, diverse perspective while being so relatable in so many ways. So Fatima's family is from India. They lived in India before they moved to the United States. And they talk about their life in India, and even talk about how her mother's life in India growing up was different from her father's. Her father grew up in a large town, a large city in India, and her mother grew up in the country in India. So their lives were different there too. But like I said, it's so relatable. What's more relatable than a family on vacation on a road trip, right? And this is probably my favorite page and the most relatable, where Fatima's father is trying to set up their tent when they first get to the campsite, and is very frustrated, as people often are setting up their camps on campsites, and is mumbling to himself in Urdu because it won't go up. And Fatima watches for a while before she suggests that maybe they should just read the manual so they can set it up. And look, it went up perfectly after that. So the illustrations in here are beautiful. They're so bright and vibrant, almost kind of cartoon-like. And it's super, super fun. And the author of this book actually is an outdoor enthusiast as well. She's the brand ambassador for a number of different outdoor companies, and she started a social media initiative called Brown People Camping. And she says it's based on Instagram that utilizes personal narratives and digital storytelling our digital storytelling to promote greater diversity in our public lands and outdoor community. So I think that's terrific. Oh, the author's name, I'm sorry, I didn't say the author's name, did I? The author is Ambreen Tariq and the illustrator is Stevie Lewis. So be sure to check out Fatima's Great Outdoors. Now the other one, like I said, very similar story type, very similar ideas, but a very different look, a very different mood to it. It is called Watercress. I didn't even realize what this book was about when it came across the desk, but it's just lovely. And you can tell from the artwork, I get a little glare there. You can tell from the artwork right off that it has such a different tone to it. But like I said, a very different story, or a very similar story. So this author is Andrea Wang, and it is illustrated by Jason Chin. And the story is inspired by her own family's story. So here we have a little girl who's driving down the road with her family, and they pull off to the side of the road to pick wild watercress from a ditch on the side of the road. The little girl is embarrassed. She's terrified that someone is going to see her. And just like Fatima in our other story, she feels so out of place in her little Ohio town, one of the only families from China there. And so she just is hoping that nobody goes by. But she picks the watercress like she's supposed to. They get in the car, go home and eat it, and she refuses to even eat it. She wants vegetables from the grocery store. She doesn't want this. But her mother starts to tell her how important watercress was to them back in China and how there were times that they didn't have enough food. And I'll show you this page. It's just a heartbreaking page. It says, during the Great Famine, she says, we ate anything we could find, but it was still not enough. And you can see the little boy is missing. There's her uncle. So just like I said, a very different tone to this story, but the same kind of idea of being sort of out of place. The little girl comes to appreciate her family. She says that she was ashamed of being ashamed of her family. And by the end, the author has a wonderful message for us. I just want to read a couple of these. The author says, this story is about the power of memory. Not just the beautiful memories, but the ones my mother and father had about eating watercress in China, but also the difficult ones, the memories that are sometimes too painful to share. And at the end, this is even better at the end of her little note, she says, this story is both an apology and a love letter to my parents. It is also an encouragement to all children who feel different and to families with difficult pasts. Share your memories, tell your stories. They are essential. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shauna, and I work at the library in Prince Frederick. Today, I want to introduce you to a delightful picture book written by an author who is also a mom, a vice principal, and a lover of chocolate chip cookies. Her name is Joanna Ho. It's illustrated by Zung Ho, who lives in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Zung loves to draw interesting characters with unique personalities. When I first came across this book, it was the title that drew me in. You see, my son-in-law is Thai, and he and his daughter, my granddaughter, both have eyes that kiss in the corners. This lyrical story shares how a young Asian girl notices that her eyes differ from the eyes of her friends. They have eyes like sapphire lagoons with lashes like lace trim. She has eyes that kiss in the corner and grow like warm tea. She realizes that her mother, her ama, and her sister all have eyes like hers. She also realizes that not only do they kiss in the corners, but they crinkle like crescent moons when they smile, and are all filled with tales from the past and hopes for the future. They are all beautiful eyes. Joanna Ho and Zung Ho have both created a lovely book which will inspire readers to recognize their own beauty and strength, and that each of us is a miracle. I hope that you come find Eyes That Kiss in the Corner in the library and take it home with you and enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. That was wonderful. My name is Reiner. I work with mobile services. My book is called Cora Cooks Pancit. So several things made me choose this book. First, of course, it was written by a Filipino author, Darina Lazo Gilmore. Second was the beautiful cover art. So you can still see the lines that the artist used. Like, let me show you an example. You can still see the lines that the artist used to draw the characters. They're very subtle. It makes them look like they're moving. The image of the young girl stirring the pot of noodles, it's just beautiful. It makes you want to grab that bowl of pancit and eat it yourself. And as a added bonus, it has a recipe. So started off, pancit is a traditional and popular Filipino noodle dish that is served almost in every gathering, every party. It's supposed to represent long life, and it's just, it's easy to make and it's just great. It is a combination of rice, thick noodles, vegetables, and sometimes meat. So the story is about Cora. She's the youngest in her family. She's excited that she gets the opportunity to help her mother in the kitchen. Normally, it's her older siblings who get to do the grown-up work, like the cutting up. But this time, it's her turn. So she decides she wants her mom to teach her to make pancit. Her mother tells Cora that her lola, her grandfather, taught her to make pancit when she was a little girl. So the story continues as Cora's mother walks her through the ingredients of the dish and how to prepare them. She explains why they soak the noodles, how long to cook the noodles, how to cut up the vegetables, and how to shred the chicken. So the book gives you an easy taste of the process of making pancit, which I think is fantastic. We are again presented with the cover art in the middle of the book. So get that real quick. Yeah, nice that is. So yeah, so it shows I love how it's drawn. So this is exactly how pancit looks like. And in the end, as Cora's family gathers at the table for dinner, you can see how nervous she is. She's like wondering, did she do it right? Will her family like her pancit? So I guess you have to read the book to see if they do like it. So another cool feature about the book is the glossary. So at the end, it explains some of the Tagalog words that were used for the book. And of course, the best part is Lola's pancit recipe. So it's right here in the end. My wife makes a fantastic pancit dish, and we're going to make this one and see which one is better. So go grab the book when you get the chance. Trust me, the story, the art is amazing. Yes, and continuing the love for Asian authors and Asian food, the next book I'd like to show everyone is called Magic Ramen. So this is the story of Momofuku Ando, also written by Andre Wang and illustrated by Kana Urbanovich. So it was such a great experience reading this book. It's a biographical picture book. The story takes place in Japan right after the Second World War. It starts with Ando walking down the war-torn streets of Osaka, Japan, where he sees a long line of poor and hungry people waiting to buy ramen soup. This is what inspires Ando to create instant ramen, particularly in a time when people were devastated from the effects of the war and had to wait for hours just to have one bowl of soup. This story not only tells us about why instant ramen was created, but also shows us the importance of creativity, problem solving, and finding solutions to help others in tough times. I love the lessons this book portrays. It will teach children the determination and patience in trying to create something amidst failure will have a positive outcome. Another wonderful thing about this book is illustrations. It looks like it's in full color and it looks like it's from an anime. Look how beautiful that is. So it adds to the flavor of an already wonderful story. So hopefully you can all get a chance to read this wonderful biography picture book. And that's it for me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Reiner. I am hungry now. Those are both beautiful and exciting. And oh my goodness, I'm hungry now books. All right. So I'm excited to tell you about Wave, illustrated by Susie Lee. It's perfect for summer. Wave, as the title suggests, is about ocean waves and a little girl's day at the beach. She spends time interacting with the waves, the seagulls, and sorting through treasures of shells that the ocean produces. Although the story is told with no words and using only 2 shades of color, charcoal and vibrant blue, Lee manages to capture the beauty and power of the sea and the wonder that it inspires. It also prevents the book from becoming overstimulating, so it's a great choice to pick up before nap or bedtime. Because the book has no words, it can be a great tool for children to experiment with their own storytelling, adding their own words to go with the lovely illustrations. And the story can change every time you reread it. I highly recommend this beautiful book for anyone. Birth to 110. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That was wonderful. And I do so much love books without words. They are so creative. Okay, I am Mary Miller, and I am a children's librarian at the Fairview branch. And I am here today. I want to share with you my book, which is called Amy Wu and the Perfect Bow. It's written by Kat Zhang and illustrated by Charlene Schwa. Now, I picked this book because I really love the story of it, but the illustrations are so cute. I love the way that Charlene Schwa drew Amy Wu. She is very expressive in the book. Now, the author, Kat Zhang, she wrote this book kind of as from her own experience in a multi-generational Asian American family. And she says within her family, they would take a day and they would make bao. And so she wanted to write something about her experience. And so she created Amy Wu. And in this one also has a recipe, just like Reiner's has. And in the beginning, because I'm sure not everybody knows how to pronounce bow, but we have our little kitty here who helps us out with how to pronounce bow, and that it's bow like to bow for someone instead of bow. So that's helpful. But I love the illustrations. In the book, Amy Wu is a little girl who is part of, again, an Asian American multi-generational family, and they are creating bao. And Amy Wu has a hard time making the perfect bao. Now, it turns out that the problem is that they are cutting the pieces too big for her little hands. So they, in the end up cutting the pieces smaller so that she can create the perfect bao with her hands. But I gotta show you some of my favorite pictures and how expressive the illustrations are. So there's Amy Wu, and she's having a little bit of difficulty making the bao. And in this picture, she's with her grandmother and her mother and father. They're sitting around the table. And here we have another illustration of her being frustrated. Look at that face. So sweet, but you can tell she's very frustrated. So, like I said, in the end, she ends up persevering and coming up with a solution of how to make the perfect bao. And these are the small pieces of dough that she can then make into the perfect bao. And here we go. Here is Amy and her perfect bao. So that's this story. And like I said, at the end, there is the recipe. Let me show. With step-by-step instructions on how to make Amy Wu's perfect bao. So you'll have to try it out, read the book, and then maybe try the recipe with your family. So thank you.
Thanks, Mary. So my name is Molly, and I am a library substitute. So you may see me at all 4 of the locations throughout Calvert County. The book that I have to share today is a favorite in my household. It is called The Red Thread, an adoption fairy tale, and it's written and illustrated by Grace Lin, who is a Taiwanese American author and illustrator. She has written over 25 children's books, so chances are good that you've probably seen some of her work before. This particular story follows a Chinese proverb which says, "An invisible red thread connects those who are destined to meet regardless of time, place, or circumstance. The thread may stretch or tangle, but will never break." And in this story, well, it's really a story within a story, we see a family, and the little girl is asking for her favorite fairy tale to be told. And in this tale, we meet a king and a queen who, though they have everything they could ever want, they feel this pain in their hearts and they can't figure out what's going on. Why are they so unhappy? They have everything. They hire different doctors and peddlers and people to come and try to help them out. And finally, an old man gives them a special pair of glasses, and those glasses show that they have red threads in their heart, and they're not sure what's on the other end of them. So they have to set out on a quest across different lands, across oceans, tangled through forests, to follow their thread and see what is on the other side. And ultimately they find their daughter is waiting for them. So even though she's not their birth daughter, she was meant to be part of their family. And that's the tale that the little girl is asking for. It's kind of her story as well. I love that it's a modern day twist on a fairy tale. And my own son is adopted, not from Asia, but from South America, but he loves this story and asks for it all the time. So it's especially good for families that have adoption that helps make them up, but good for anybody to help explain how different families look. Thanks.
Oh, that looks like such a great story, Molly. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I'm a children's librarian at the Prince Frederick branch. And today the story I'm going to talk about is called Drawn Together. The author of this story is Min Lei, and the illustrator is award winner, Caldecott Award winner, Dan Santat. It's a wonderful story about the challenge of intergenerational communication. So Dan and both Min Lei had this experience growing up. So Min Lei is Vietnamese American, and when he was growing up, he grew up in the United States and spoke very little Vietnamese, but his grandparents had kind of the opposite experience. They grew up in Vietnam and spoke very little English. So in this story, there's a little boy and his grandfather, and the little boy goes to visit his grandfather. And you'll see too that there are words and text, but primarily illustrations, which I think was a conscious choice on the part of the author to show that communication barrier. And so Grandpa's food looks very different from the little boy's food of kind of a typical classic children's meal in the United States of hot dogs and French fries. And so they have a hard time kind of understanding each other's preferences, and they sit down to watch TV together. And it's the same thing. They're not really on the same page. And so it's that challenge that I think most kids can relate to, of having grandparents that are older and have some differences. But this one is unique in that it's also a language barrier too. And so you'll see that the way that the little boy and Grandpa come together is through their love of art. So the little boy's got his superhero and Grandpa has his superhero, and all of a sudden they have this way to connect with each other. So it's a beautiful story. Dan Santat's illustrations are just gorgeous, and it's a beautiful mix of color and black and white, and it's just beautiful. And one of the main theme of the story that I think is important, and it's written on the inside cover of the book, is sometimes you don't need words to find common ground. So it's a beautiful story for everyone and how we can all find common ground. So thank you so much, and pick up Drawn Together.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you're as excited as I am to pick up these books, read them yourself and to a loved one. Visit calvertlibrary.info to find these titles and to explore all that Calvert Library has to offer. Thank you.